Welcome to Bridging Chicago, a podcast that aims to connect our listeners to Chicago's business, community, cultural, and charity leaders.
Hello and welcome back to the Bridging Chicago podcast. I'm Nathan, your host for today, and we're joined once again by Imelda Rodriguez, who we just spoke to about her journey and about the future of the Latina female in business. And so if you haven't heard that part of the episode, be sure to go back and listen to that, which you can find on our website, www.bridgingchicago.com. We're going to continue on because I wanted to make sure we got to talk about the book and how that came to be, because I was really excited to read about it. So, just share with us. First of all, I think it was really interesting, this collaborative effort, which I thought was really cool. But let's start with how the book came to be. How did you come up with the idea? And then how did you get from the idea to actually like, oh, we're going to have a book?
So first of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you for, I know this is like second part, but thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about Latinas in finance. And the idea came, like, this is actually my second book.
Okay.
My first book is back in May 2017, when I was part of the movement Today Inspire Latina with Jackie Camacho Ruiz, right?
Good friend of ours.
So I know, I saw her in the recordings there.
Yeah.
So pretty much I was part of the movement Today Inspire Latina. I got like that kind of little bit of flavor of being part of, like, you know, you are part of this movement, but at the same time you are an author, right?
Yeah, right.
It was like, I want to call it like partial, because now that I am fully the author, right, this is intense, huge difference about like your story, you're sharing your story in one chapter versus having or running a full project, right?
Right.
So at that point, I was like, you know, I'm going to do something. At one point, let it on. 3 years after, actually 3 years ago, almost 2 years and a half, 3 years, Jackie, she started a new, she's like 31 times author, right?
Yeah.
So if you follow her, if you know who she is, you know that books to her like are going to happen, right? All the time. Very
like
natural. Yeah, right. You're like, oh, I didn't know that book. It was like they're cooking, and then you just, there is a virtual launch or something else happening.
Yeah.
So by being connected with her, I was like, okay, I know. 3 years ago, she became a pilot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she launched this Latinas in Aviation. That's 2 years and a half ago. And then at that point, very excited about her. Like, oh my God, I know for sure that she got no idea about like how far this inspiration, she call it divine download, right? She's like, okay, I'm gonna do this, another book, got it. But then 3-4 months after, there is somebody else doing Latinas in HR connected with the Fig Factor.
Okay.
And I'm like, whoa, okay, so now this is something else, right? We see Latinas in Aviación, I see Latinas in HR. 6 months later, I see Latinas in social work. At that point, I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it, Nathan. It was like, I knew, by knowing Jackie, by knowing these Latinas in X, that at that point, I am pretty sure that Jackie was not aware, like, oh, this is a series now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, now I see like more and more, because it was like a new book.
Yeah.
But by the third one, by Latinas in Social Work, it was just right here in my heart. Like the purpose, the call, right? From the previous one. I was like, this is a thing. Is going to happen. It is going to happen. So by knowing that, I called Jackie, like, hey, Jackie, I know how the things work. Like, put me in the list, how, you know, I want to be part of your next book, Latinas in Finance. And she started laughing. And she was like, no, I don't have that yet. Like, it's not even cooking. And it's like, like, I'm sorry, but there is nothing there yet.
Yeah.
So I was like, make sure you put in the list my name, because I want to be part of Latinas in Finance. And I was like, okay, end of the conversation. Weeks after, I'm pretty sure like she kept that in her head, like, oh, okay, now there's a new project in here, right? And she called me and she's like, hey, Imelda, why don't you run this project? And I'm like, ooh, hold your horses right here, right now, because it's two different things. Write your story, you write your chapter, you deliver, the project, and then that's it, versus running a whole project. Like, it's like the other side of the coin. So at that point, I was like, let me think about it. I actually had to say that. I was like, let me think about it. Like, okay. And then I call her back and I'm like, so what do I need to do? And she's like, get like about 10 meetings. Get 10 meetings with Latinas in finance. And if you, from the 10, you get 5 that they are like really into this, let me know. I'm like, okay. After that, 3 months pass. Not 10 meetings, many meetings to find out the 5 that they were like into this. Many people they were like, yeah, Imelda, sounds good, but I don't know. They were like many things against me at that point. Yeah. So 3 months after, I end up with nothing. Call back Jackie, like nothing happened. So I was like, let me just, give some time to this idea about like me running the project. So nothing happened. 3 months after the 3 months, so 6 months after, this is the summer last year. So I'm going to be like almost like a year, 6 months ago. I'm like, now the time has been passing. We don't have anything. So she calls me back again and she's like, so Imelda, at this point, I do have 3 more ladies who call me and they're like, about this idea, Latinas in finance, like you're doing this, yada, yada. And she was like very honest with me, like, are you gonna run this? Or I have like 3 more, right? Like wanted to run these. But again, the boys in here, I was like, oh my God, I thought about this. This is my creation. It was my idea, right? Like how you can allow somebody else to run with the project. And I was like, no. I kind of asked her, like, give me some time. I'm not going to say yes again, like without even thinking about this. And I remember, like, I hang up and I'm like, what I'm going to do different, right? Like what I can do different from 6 months ago. Like, nothing is going to change. I already put my name there with many people, like telling them like, hey, I'm into this project. Like, what do you think? I'm like, man, what I'm going to do in here. So I remember this is my moment of being open, being vulnerable, and being spiritual at the same time. At the middle of the room, I'm like, what I'm going to do? And then just look up and then think about like, God, I need your help. There is nothing I can do. There is nothing on this earth that I'm going to change or be different. Like it's the same Imelda, the same knowledge, the same skills. It was just me at that moment. And I asked him for help. Like, God, help me. If you go with me, this project is going to be successful. If you don't go with me, there's not even to the corner I'm going to go. Yeah. So right there, Imelda in the middle of that room. And after this spray, I took like some time, called back Jackie, and I'm like, I'm going to run the show. I'm going to run it. This is mine. This is my call. This is a purpose. So after 3 months, right after that time, 3 months after, I got 17, we're 18 with me, 17 Latinas in finance that they truly believe in the project, believe in me. And now I can tell you, going back to like, there is nothing I changed. Nothing I changed. Like I tried to think about like what was different from the first time to the second time. The only thing I can tell you, being completely honest, it was like that moment of being open, being connected with God, right? And I was like just asking him like, if you help me, this thing is going to happen. And that was the result.
It's amazing. I mean, even just voicing something sometimes gives a little credence. It's like, oh, it's a thing now because I said it out loud. So it's like, I went to Jackie and said this. I can't take it back. It's like once the words are out there. So sometimes even just giving voice to that can give you enough courage and power to say, no, this is a thing and I'm going to make it happen. And that's really amazing. You have some really incredible leaders that came around you and contributed to this book. Can you talk to us about these ladies and just what they provide and what people will learn from them if they read this book?
Yeah. So let me tell you, in my journey, like right with this book, I got the opportunity to, I read the book already 3 times. It's not there yet, right? Yeah. Nobody has read the book yet because the book launch is going to be this coming Thursday, January the 19th. So I read the book 3 times in like 48 hours each time. I was like, you read it again, and then you read it again. And it was like, you read it again. I was like, oh my God. But even from the first time that I read, it was like I have been talking with all of them. It was like the creation of this book, right? Like they were sending all of them like the chapters. So they don't even know how this masterpiece is looking at like right now. Wow. They don't even know yet because again, the book is not ready yet. But my first time, I was like, so all the stories are very inspirational. You're going to see tons of obstacles, barriers that all of them overcome, like with the time, by being the Latinas in finance, like in different fields. Because again, I'm talking about like all of them, they are doing different things. I have like from realtors, from loan officers, from attorneys, tax specialists, insurance brokers, like you name it, like different fields in this book. All of them are being open to share the story, to share that it is possible for those Latinas. And I'm going to be honest, like not even like the ones that are not Latinas, like if you read this book, you're going to get that push of like, you have to move no matter what, no matter if you're like, there is actually one of the stories, like she is talking about like, I was older at that point to join like this financial field, like what I'm going to do. And then she talks about like how she overcomes all of that. Like she went to school like at age of 30 and she was like all of the kids, like they were getting there, with like parents. I was there like with my husband and my kids. Like it's like those real things that you're like, you relate and you're like, you're getting that inspiration from the stories from the book. And then on top of that, like we're gonna share the inspiration, the financial inspiration. We call it like that at the book. So we tell our stories. We end like our chapter with that financial inspiration where we give resources to whoever is reading the story. So if you're reading something and you're like, hey, that, from the 18, I'm not trying to be like, you're going to love the stories of all of us. Yeah. Maybe you're not, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3, 4, I don't know. But with the person that you're like, I'm going to learn from this author, like you're going to get her information. You're going to be able to get in contact with the author and for that author to get in contact with you and tell you like, this is the step 1, 2, and 3 and you can move forward. So that's the intention. That's the intention.
I have to know how your mom reacted to this project because I can't imagine, as your daughter kind of goes through this journey and then comes up with this product and it comes out and obviously she hasn't held a physical copy yet, but she will soon. How has your mom reacted to all this?
She has been with me in the whole journey from my first fail, right? Like she was there, she was crying with me. She was like, I'm in here, I'm going to support you no matter what. Yeah. And then she's with me right now. Like not physically in here right now, but I do have a daughter, a 5-year-old daughter, and she's taking care of her, right? Yeah, like as a Latinas, we do many roles, and we need to be like, okay, I'm a CEO, founder and CEO, but then I'm an author, but then I need to go home and do a lot of things. Like as a Latinas, our culture is very important for us, like how we can, get all of these together. So she's there, with me right now, like supporting me. She has been an instrumental part of this, because she's there. She knows everything. She knows, like, when I have been crying, when I've been getting even angry about something, like, there is no way I can find something about, like, the exit for this, but she's there, like, giving me the motivational part, the inspirational part, and as my role model. Like, one day I'm gonna be like her. I'm gonna be able to even speak like her, because again, there is something very, like, I can tell you, is very special. Like, when she speaks in front of an audience, like, people will get around, like, just to listen to what she's saying, because there is a lot of wisdom. So one day. Yeah.
Well, it's her book too, and that's really cool.
Too.
Yeah. Tell us, because by the time that our audience is watching this, they should be able to buy this book. So tell us how they can find it, where they can find it.
Yeah, it's going to be available after January the 19th via Amazon. So anybody can go there. You, on the search Amazon, you do Latinas in Finance, and the first thing and only book available out there about these, these stories and being the Latinas in series. You're going to see this image right there. Just click there. It's under $20. So you're going to be able to support. And again, the intention of these, I haven't met any author yet with 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 books that they get rich because of the sales of the books. So that is not my intention. The intention is, like, how we can, this book open doors for us to be in the high schools, to be in the universities, to be the voice, to raise the voice of many Latinas, and for us to help them. So at one point, I do want to get that scholarship for the Latinas. So
it's amazing. I really appreciate you coming in and sharing your story and sharing the book with us. We really look forward to reading it, and all these 18 incredible stories of these leaders. So anytime you're talking to leaders who are doing things out there, doesn't matter their gender, it doesn't matter their background, you're going to learn. And I think that that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to give people a platform so that they can learn from you. And now you're giving a platform to these ladies. So we're so thankful for that.
No, thank you. Thank you again. It has been a pleasure to be at your home of, this podcast. So thank you so much for opening these opportunities to share with the audience, and hopefully somebody, I feel like with one person that you decide to move forward and do something for you today, for your community, something is going to happen.
Yeah, I am right there with you. I'm believing that with you, and I know that it will happen because you've already inspired me, and I know you've inspired all of our listeners. So thank you. And we also want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Bridging Chicago podcast. Be sure to check out Latinas in Finances on Facebook and LinkedIn, or go to www.latinasinfinances.com, and also visit www.bridgingchicago.com to find other ways to connect with Latinas in Finances. You can also visit us on Instagram and Twitter, where our handle is @BridgingChicago, and you can find us on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for being with us here on Bridging Chicago.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Bridging Chicago, as produced by the SATC Solutions Center. Nothing contained in this podcast shall constitute financial, investment, legal, and/or professional advice. No professional relationship of any kind is created between you and the podcast host or guest. You are urged to speak with your financial, investment, or legal advisors before making any investment or legal decisions. Furthermore, the opinions expressed in this podcast are not necessarily the opinions of SATC Solutions Center, SATC Law, or any of its employees. This podcast is created by the hosts and guests' individual capacities. All opinions on this podcast are or have been rendered based on specific facts, under certain conditions, and are subject to certain assumptions, and may not and should not be used or relied upon for any other purpose, including but not limited to, or use in or in connection with any investment purposes or legal proceeding.